Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Simon with another episode of The Bad Batch as we creep towards the end. And for the first time, we know what's coming afterwards. Since the last episode, or the last two episodes, were released last week, we've had a trailer for Tales of the Empire, which I am particularly excited about. You can find a link to my reaction to that over on the Star Wars channel that I run. That's where the reactions to everything Star Wars is going to be after the Bad Batch. So if you don't want to miss out on my Star Wars reactions, including the Outlaws trailer reaction that I released yesterday, apologies for Zuko, he's up on his tree, it's over on the channel. I'll link the video in the description so you can go and check it out and subscribe, because if you don't subscribe, you're going to miss out, because pretty soon there's going to be almost no Star Wars content on this channel. I'm kind of diverging over to the new channel because I just like to keep it all separate. So yeah, go check that out. But we only have 4 episodes left, I think, because I think there's 15 or 16 episodes in this season. And so this, after the last 2 episodes, which were pretty heavy, we lost Omega again. She's back under the control of the Empire on her way to Tantis. The Tracker missed. We lost the Marauder. Pabu is under Imperial occupation. It just all feels like it's just gone to absolute hell. But let's be honest, were we expecting any different? I don't think so. I wasn't. And again, I feel like these last 4 episodes, 3-4 episodes, they are going to be, again, pretty emotionally heavy. I can't see all of the Bad Batch getting out of this alive. I definitely see members sacrificing themselves. Wouldn't surprise me if, in the irony of ironies, the only person to survive was Crosshair, and Omega. I think that would probably be a rather fitting conclusion, given, Crosshair's journey from not wanting to be in the Bad Batch, betraying them, then being betrayed by the Empire, then forming this really close bond with Omega this season. That would be interesting. But I feel like we're also going to learn more about what's in the vault. We saw the kids last time, but that's obviously not the only, prisoners in the vault. There is definitely someone being held in stasis in that big red chamber. So I want to find out who that is. So, yes, we're going to jump in. So let's watch the next episode of The Bad Batch. Juggernaut. To be fair, we do see in the trailer that they drive a Juggernaut tank. Maybe that's what the title is referring to. I also goddamn love this ship design. I need it. It's such a cool design. There's Emery.
Begin testing her at once. I want confirmation.
There is no escaping this time.
Problem, Dr. Carr.
Emery.
Again, I love every time that we're in the Tantis facility, there's this really eerie music.
I'm sorry, but I do.
Almost 80s horror-like music.
For what it's worth.
The troopers are pulled out, but the cruiser's still jamming our comms.
I was going to say, I'm surprised that they're actually leaving Pabu.
The Empire would have destroyed this whole town. There's someone who might have the coordinates.
Who?
Admiral Rampart.
Oh, there's a name I was not expecting to hear.
To Polka City.
Why didn't you say anything before?
I honestly thought he would have been executed. So I wonder if that's who they're going to break out, is Rampart.
I was still in the Empire when they arrested him. He was sent to...
Oh. Is that going to be Fee? Is it our favourite pirate? Yes, it is. And AZ.
You must be Crosshair. That told me all about your sparkling personality.
Yeah. He's a charmer.
Any friend of Brown Eyes is a friend of mine. Well, we
Oh, Brown Eyes. Huh. that an Juggernaut? It is, it's an Juggernaut. Look at this guy. How the mighty have fallen. Yeah, I get the feeling that we're going to move quite quickly through this episode. His rescue is not going to be slow.
No, we won't. Remember that trick I mentioned?
They're going dark.
Oh, relax.
Or they're going
I
fast.
expect you to know a stealth approach when you see it.
This must suck to get this as a an assignment for guard duty. Like, this world does not seem... Firstly, it's a prison camp. It's a barren, desolate world.
Hopefully, next assignment we'll see some action.
Yeah. There you go. You spoke too soon.
Take on a turbo tank. Yeah, now you're talking.
We can't hit it head on. They'll see us coming.
They'll have had some experience with the Juggernauts.
I'll secure the controls. You two handle Rampart.
Wrecker by handle, he means apprehend, not destroy. Ooh, that's very pretty background there. Violet and purple.
Remember Plan 55?
God, I love all their plans.
Yeah, 55.
I'm guessing Tech came up with them all. No stunning for these guys. Guys on the bridge were lucky.
CT9904.
You want to get out of here?
Remembered. Touching.
Run a diagnostic on their comms.
I love how all the Imperial officers in the show are slightly overweight, slightly unkempt. You know, they just don't feel like the usual prim and proper
Fine, right.
Imperials because they're all assigned to these outposts that they don't give a shit
You're
about.
not here to execute me, and you're not letting me go.
You're not in a position to bargain.
I love how creepy he sounds.
I'll talk. After you get me off this planet. You don't get what you want.
I thought that was the plan anyway.
I don't get what I want.
You'd have to break him out.
Wrecker, man the cannon.
Bring up the gunships, seal off the bridge, and reroute Transport 2 to intercept.
He's onto it. He may be a bit overweight and unkempt, but he feels like he knows what he's doing.
Hold the bridge.
Oh, damn. Get on the cannons. They're just going to crash into each other. They got missiles! Oh, that's a shot. Over them? They're going to ramp over them? Yes! That is also something I didn't know I needed to see. It's a Juggernaut flying through midair. God damn. See why they call them Juggernauts. Uh-oh. These stormtroopers are slightly competent. What's going on? Bye! Oh my god. Yep. Oh my god. I love how he just chucks him without any regard. You can do it! There you go.
I might know how to get around that.
Either you tell us now, or we drop you back in that Imperial prison.
Now, no need for threats.
Oh no, there's need.
We're in this together.
Yep. Confirmation. And once they know, they'll take all the blood they can. Or they might just stick her in the stasis chamber.
Where are you taking me?
The vault. But I don't think she's going to see the kids.
We tried various methods.
Yeah, these are the kids, but where's the rest of the vault?
Who are they?
Well, despite a rather creepy ending, you know, essentially showing the kidnapped kids being held prisoner, that was a very fun episode. I loved the kind of the heist element and the fact that it wasn't, you know, particularly drawn out. They just got down to it. And you know, we had a lot of fun with it. Was great. You know, the environment on that prison planet was so wonderful. You know, I loved the architecture of the long dam-like structure. You know, the planet itself, although quite barren and grey and desolate, you know, had an eerie kind of beauty to it. You know, there were some shots where you were kind of noticing the background. There was kind of these beautiful violet pools on the ground, and you know, that's really what I like in, you know, the cinematography for these kinds of worlds. It's kind of, it feels a bit alien but also a bit familiar. Like, if you were to say to me, it's very similar to in Andor with the Imperial base on Aldhani. It's actually a dam in Scotland. And so it has a very kind of grounded aesthetic to it because it is something that exists in the world. It has a familiar feel because it's in, you know, a valley that exists in Britain with a structure that already has been built and just added on to make it feel more imperial. And that's kind of what this design felt like. You know, it felt like this could have been a real valley somewhere, you know, a real sort of desolate canyon. And that was a real structure. And, you know, that's why I think sometimes it feels so familiar. Because it does feel like you could be there. It doesn't feel too alien. And don't get me wrong, I like it when they go full-on alien design. But, you know, I think for the Empire, it works best when it is familiar. And, you know, the breakout was great. You know, you didn't need to focus too much on the specifics. It's just, this is Rampart. This is how far he's fallen. You know, there is a clear weakness in the Imperial defense. They're able to hijack the Juggernaut, and we see why it's called a Juggernaut, because it takes a pounding. It's able to ram through things. You know, because it's a machine of war. I know that they get converted into transport and cargo containers during the reign of the Empire, but during the Clone Wars, you know, those tanks were exactly that. They were tanks. They were designed to ram things and blow things up. So it's good to see them used in that way, as well as being a prisoner transport. And I think it is ironic that we've now got Rampart having to help the clones. You know, the person who was, you know, ultimately responsible for a lot of the strife the clones went through, and the stormtroopers coming in, is now helping the clones. You know, there's a beautiful irony to that. And I love how Crosshair, you know, flips. You know, he's not got any of that softness to him when he's talking to Rampart. You know, we've seen that softer side come out over the last few episodes. But then when he's talking to Rampart, he's back to that shrill, you know, kind of haunting voice, the threatening voice. And it's great. It really is. I really like just the little subtleties that are introduced to show the demeanour of a character and their emotions at that moment. I'm kind of expecting, you know, obviously now the last 3 episodes, or however many there might be left, they're going to focus now on Tantis. And I think eventually we will find out. It would be strange. I know the vault so far, we've seen the kids. We know the kids, why they're there. Omega's going to be held with the kids. But at the very beginning, you know, they showed us that kind of stasis chamber. And we've not really seen it since. And I know it's there. I know they're trying to make us forget about it. And I do think that we'll probably see it in these last few episodes. And we'll find out who else is in there. Because I don't believe it's just the kids that they're holding. The kids they're holding in this sort of open area because, I mean, they're kids, they're not going to be able to escape, whereas if you've got a fully grown adult Force user, you're going to have to keep them sedated. That's why they're in, a stasis vault. So I'm wondering how long it's going to be before we find out who that really is. And again, I'm still betting on Quinlan Vos. I've still got my money on that. But this kind of feels like, that last kind of successful run out for the Bad Batch. It's kind of like everyone came out unscathed, everyone came out unharmed. They got the man they were looking for without much trouble, to be honest. Again, that's what I like, is that the Empire is starting to feel like that, that lazy, incompetent Empire. But there's still strands of, the really kind of ironclad control that they needed in the immediate aftermath of converting over from the Republic. All the officers, they all seem slightly, because these are ship posts. They're just like the troopers even said, I hope we get something better. There's no allure to these worlds, and again, like on Aldhani and Andor, they're like, we need a better posting. If this goes well, we could end up on Coruscant. And, that's why the Imperial officers who are in charge of these outposts in these backwater planets that, have no allure to them, they all seem to either get a little bit disheveled, a little bit overweight, a little bit lazy, or, kind of overconfident. And there's a great balance there at the moment. Like, the guy in charge of this facility, you could tell that he was on his way. He had the kind of, although it was a very rugged and manly beard, it was a little bit unkempt. He was a little bit overweight, but he still seemed to have some competence to him. He still seemed to know what to do. He didn't hesitate. He just, unfortunately, wasn't prepared for anyone hijacking a Juggernaut, because a Juggernaut is great at holding prisoners, but it's also great at breaking them out, which is ironic. So I like that. I like these decisions. And again, a special mention to the soundtrack. The Kiners are doing fantastic work in, setting the tone. And again, particularly on Tantus, where you've got this very kind of synthetic horror 80s vibe with the soundtrack, really does add to the kind of hopelessness and the depth of the situation. So I'm really loving it. And again, as always, a shout out to the animation quality. Beautiful as ever. Cannot believe just how far we've come in a few short years. I don't even think Clone Wars Season 7, I think what everyone remembers in terms of the quality of the animation for Clone Wars Season 7 is the motion capture for the fight between Ahsoka and Maul. Whereas this show, it feels like they've stepped up in every area of the animation. And it excites me to think about where we could be in 10 years' time with animation quality. When you think about where we were 10 years ago today, Rebels was released, and I know a lot of the show's animation was an aesthetic choice. It was very cartoony for a reason, but, there's no way we'd be anywhere near the animation quality that we had for this show. So imagine where we're going to be in 10 years' time. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you for the next episode.